So a little bit about product people and what we do. So our mission is to help companies discover, deliver great faster. We do this in two ways. So one of them is through exactly this product community, where we encourage everyone to share knowledge generally, hence why we're gathering here today. And it seems that every time that I host this meeting, we have, our numbers are growing bigger and bigger, which is an amazing sign that we're delivering value, I hope. And so thanks for being here, joining us during these talks are really important for us. And at the same time, we do what we like to call the unglamorous hands-on work of a product manager. And we do this on an interim basis. And by doing it so, our goal is to onboard fast, align teams, and deliver great outcomes. We also love to do great slide decks, but we'll just stay on the outcomes for that purpose. I think it adds more than slide decks, I guess. So before we move forward, we would like to get to know more about our audience and about you and your relationship with the topic that we're going to talk about today. So we have prepared a couple of questions on that matter. So the first question would be, what are the aspects of a company that change when the number of employees grows tenfold? So you have answers like tools for communication within the team, bureaucratic hierarchy changes, less exposure to all employees about the larger picture of things, D, not many. And the second question is product operations more difficult to achieve with teams working remotely or in a hybrid mode? Yes, not at all, depends on the situation. So if you're on Zoom, a poll should appear at any minute. And if you are on other channels, feel free to write your answer in the comment section and we'll be going to evaluate that. As far as I'm concerned, I guess for question number one, I would go with probably B and C. And for number two, I suppose it depends on the situation that we have at hand. So let's see what the poll has for us. Very curious. Are the results out? Or am I the one who cannot see them?
Yeah, let me share the results.
No, don't worry. These Zoom sharing sessions. Oh, thank you. All right, so it seems that the majority of the people voted for bureaucratic hierarchy changes, followed by less exposure to all employees, and depends on the situation for the last question. So I guess we're all aligned on that front. That's great. So without any further delay, I would like to introduce you to our very special guest today. Amer is a VP of Product Creation Operations at Utopia Music. And Amer, welcome to our community space, and looking forward to see what you have to present for us today. I'll just stop sharing my screen and let you go at it.
Thank you, João, for hosting. And thank you, product people, for actually inviting me to do this talk. I'm really excited to be here. Also want to give a huge shout out to product people as a company who's been supercharging my team and a number of other teams at Utopia over the past, I think, half a year. We love working with you, and I love being here today. So thank you for that. And with that, we can jump into the slides. Can you see it? I think you can.
Yes.
So yeah, welcome everybody to my very short talk about product ops at Utopia Music, where we will explore how our culture at Utopia and the rapid growth we've experienced over the past couple of years really define what we're doing in product operations. So just to introduce myself with a little bit more detail, I am the VP of Product Creation Operations at Utopia, but what that means is that I'm asking the question, what do our cross-functional teams and the cross-functional leaders of those teams across product, engineering, design, and data need to be successful? And a part of that ended up being product operations. So there's a slight difference. It's confusing. Product creation at Utopia is cross-functional. Product management is one function. And so today, what we have in the organization is product operations as a team a team of agile coaches, a team of community managers that are helping the different functions learn and get together, and a technical program management team. But today, I'm only going to focus about product operations. And to talk about that, I'm going to kick off with a round of intros. So with the basics, what is Utopia trying to do? Who are we? What are we trying to achieve? Who are we trying to achieve it for? And how does product ops fit in? And what is product ops actually? And then we'll jump into 3 challenges we faced over the past year, really, and how we've tackled it from a product operations perspective. So what's Utopia? What are we building? Who are we building it for? And how are we going about it? We are a music fintech that's leveling up the music industry through clear, transparent, reliable, data-based solutions. So we're trying to service the entire music industry to make more money faster with less costs and less errors. So for example, we're helping investors elevate music catalogs into a real asset class. We're helping collection societies track more and spend less. And we're helping artists, labels, publishers, and distributors simplify and enhance their business. And at the end of the day, everyone gets fair pay for every play. And just to clarify, so we're trying to serve the entire industry from creation to consumption. So from when a song gets created to when it's listened to. And we don't want to compete with that part of the industry. We're a fintech, so we will never own copyright. We will never be owned by a major stakeholder of the industry. And since we deal with a lot of data, we don't share or sell the data of our customers to anyone else. So serving the entire music industry and our product vision is a ridiculously bold vision. Luckily for us, a lot of investors actually believe in that vision. And that set us off around 18 months ago, around maybe 2 years ago, to grow. And so far, we have acquired over 13 companies. And we went from 60 employees to more than 660. And that number is growing every week or two. From a product ops perspective, what that means is that there's a growing complexity, a growing number of product managers, product designers, UX researchers, engineers, data scientists working together, building more products and shipping them to market through a ever-increasing go-to-market engine across marketing, sales, customer support. So more products, more squads, working in different ways as they're coming from more companies. And together, these today over 30 squads, we want them to work together to deliver on the Utopia product strategy, even if they're working in slightly different ways. So I'm here to talk today about some of the challenges we faced trying to help them to work together in the best way possible. But before I do that, brief primer on product ops. I did some research, and the earliest claim to product ops I could find was from PayPal, which according to dragonboat.io, which is a portfolio management SaaS, they invented the role for the first time, I think, in 2011. And the role of product ops back then at PayPal was to support the product organization in becoming more disciplined and data-driven. Fast forward to 2019, and Melissa Perry published her wonderful book, Escaping the Build Trap. And she introduced the product operations team there as a chief of staff type role for the CPO if you're a small company. And when you're a bigger company, and I count Utopia as a bigger company, that product ops role becomes an entire team that's focused on streamlining all operational and process work that squads need to be successful. So that's, automating, streamlining ways to collect data, reporting on goals and outcomes, maintaining product analytics platform, etc. Get the book. The book is awesome. There's 2 pages on product ops. I can highly recommend it. But this was very much the model we wanted at Utopia. So both the CPO and I started roughly at the same time a year ago, and he realized he needed this model when he joined because he saw an aggressive acquisition spree of companies coming up, an aggressive growth in number of squads and products. And what he needed was for his product leaders and his product managers to focus on growing those products, not on doing operations. And that's why we have a product ops team at Utopia. Now, I can't talk about product management or give a talk about product management without including Marty Kagan at least once. And luckily for us in the product ops space, he wrote an article in December 2021 where he provided an overview of product operations and presented 6 different flavors, if you want, or implementations of product ops that he encountered in the industry. And he presented a vision for what he thinks or recommends product ops could be or should be. And he says that it's there to be a force multiplier for product managers, product designers, and sometimes product marketing managers. And this is really, really important for us in product ops because it gives us a language to talk about those different implementations across the industry. I recommend everybody who's interested in product ops to actually go read that article. But we are huge fans of his vision at Utopia, which he admits in the article is basically just a rebranded vision, or the rebranded version that Melissa herself recommends in the build trap. We like it especially because it acknowledges and draws from the DevOps movement that really has transformed how we build and operate software over the last decade. I myself was part of that, first as an engineer, and experienced that transformation of operations and development, getting together and working closer, providing tools and practices that engineering teams need to transform. I did that as a product manager for a while, building software delivery platforms. And so I was looking at squads every day and thinking, what do they need? After a brief stint as a product leader, building some experiences for musicians, I'm now back looking internally and asking that question of what do squads need to work in the best way possible? What do their leadership, what do they need? And providing tools, insights, and methods for them. So with that primer on product ops and a little bit of how we think about it at Utopia, I want to talk about a couple of issues we faced. The first one I call, what's going on? I thought I knew. When we went from 3 squads happily running Scrum and a Scrum of Scrums to coordinate their activities to 30 squads, the amount of information about who's doing what and why they're doing it stopped fitting into any person's head or any single meeting. So what we did is we decided to set the BPM of product creation at Utopia. So a little music reference here, BPM is the beats per minute. So how fast is this song? And that's really, really important for us because similar to Scrum, we need a rhythm. So Scrum coordinates inside of the squad across the product manager, engineer, design, other people on the team. But we need something to coordinate all the teams together. The image on the left is from Tony Fuddle's recent book, Build, one of my favorite reads of the year. And for those who aren't Apple fanboys like myself, Tony Fuddle, he was the original designer for the iPod, and he ran the entire iPod division and was then also part of the original iPhone team, and then was responsible for all iPhone hardware, firmware, accessories. And then he went on to co-found the Nest smart thermostat, which was then bought by Google. What I'm trying to say is that he knows a thing or two about building awesome products and shipping them to market, most importantly. And he says that you need heartbeats and handcuffs. So a bit controversial here, but he says you need constraints to make decisions. Everybody knows this from design. And the best one, he says, is time. And there's external constraints, an upcoming conference, that's when you're going to launch your product, or maybe if you're Amazon, Christmas is a big deal for you, or Black Saturday or Black Friday, I forget, but one of those major Black Friday, yeah, one of those major external milestones, right? But you can also have internal constraints like your upcoming sprint review or your quarterly planning. Product ops cannot influence the external ones, but we can help define the internal ones. And so what we do is we define and mature a set of rituals and routines which provide a rhythm for the organization. The screenshot on the left shows a snapshot in time a couple of quarters ago for how we do quarterly reviews, how squads and the business units in which the squads are in and the executive team coordinate their planning activities. So similar to Scrum, we need a rhythm for all squads and their stakeholders to dance to, basically, from quarterly planning to weekly updates. And so with different departments, like we have a strategy department, for example, the leadership team, operations team, basically design and schedule and facilitate all these sessions. Now, going from a quarterly cadence to a weekly cadence, we recently introduced a weekly newsletter that really condenses all updates across 30 squads and 8 business units to a single, fun, easy, and engaging weekly newsletter that goes out every Monday. You come in Monday, starting your day, there it is. You know what happened last week. And that sets the pace for the entire organization. That's how quick we want to deliver on a weekly basis and stay informed. Now, moving to the next challenge, I call it, where are we headed? I thought I knew. I just mentioned that we have 30 squads and we want them to deliver on the Utopia strategy. When you're 3 or 5 squads, the strategy, the product strategy, the company strategy, the company vision, the product vision, roughly the same thing. And you can figure those out over coffee or a weekly meeting with the CEO and the CPO. When it's 30 squads building a huge number of products, we're dealing with a portfolio at that point, a portfolio of products, a portfolio of companies. So how does a product manager know how their work fits into the broader picture? And more specifically, what work is important? So if you've read Empowered by Marty Kagan or his blog, you know that they need strategic context in the form of product strategy, product vision, principles, etc. Who's responsible for that? Is it product ops? No, of course not. It's the product leadership. In Utopia's context, that's the leadership across product, engineering, data, and design. But product ops is there to make it easier. We play a supporting role. We act as product leadership enablement. And the way we do that is by facilitating the creation and the development and the deployment of that strategy through a number of workshops, through providing templates, through coordinating everything, communicating transparently. And what you see here on the left are actual screenshots from our workshops from Miro, where we helped individual product teams develop their North Stars for their products, or for the entire company, the North Star for the entire company across all products. We also help standardize and define how to manage the product portfolio and really get everybody to speak the same language as well. What you see here on the left is a template that we use just to define a team charter. Seems like a very, very, very simple thing to do, is to just have a page that looks the same across team to team, from product to product, but it actually is a huge impact for the collaboration and communication part of an organization that's growing when we're growing and adding products and teams on a monthly basis, because it gets us to speak the same language. Luckily, everybody on this call speaks English, but when you are starting to talk about KPIs and products and customers and missions and so on, you also want to align on that language. Lastly, we introduced a road mapping tool. Luckily, there are amazing ones on the market at this point. We don't need to build our own. But a few months ago, we were still using Miro, which is an amazing tool. I love it. But software developers don't write their code in Microsoft Word, and there's a very good reason for that. You get a lot of good stuff happening when you use an IDE. And I don't think that product managers when in a company of this size should manage their roadmap in Miro. Links were breaking, the format of the roadmap would break when someone comes in and edits it. And you would have too much information, too many insights coming from sales and commercial and so on that couldn't fit into that board anymore. So yeah, now we're rolling out a new tool for that at Utopia. The last challenge I'm going to talk about is a very simple one. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I call it product leader and 5 product managers walk into a bar. This happened more or less a couple of times this year as we basically doubled in size, I think, in this year. We definitely 10x'd over the last 2 years. So we had this happen a few times where, yes, we acquired a lot of companies, but we also hired a lot of people to execute on our product strategy. They should not every single time reinvent the wheel of how to work together. So how do you help them define their ways of working? Well, first of all, you just start, you don't delay. As product ops, here it starts to blur the lines a little bit between what typically maybe an agile coach does, a leader does. But the way that we can all work together and help is to provide frameworks and templates. Very, very simple things. Here are some meetings to get you started. This is maybe when you review your roadmap. Here is your roadmap structure if you want. Here's a template to get you started. Here's those charters that we use to define the team, the product strategy, etc. And you can start with some fill in the blank stuff, and that gets you going, right? You want to get that quick start to get collaborating. Again, you speak the same language. You don't have to learn each other's languages. And then, super, super important, continuous improvement. Iterate, iterate, iterate. Bake those retrospectives in. I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a second. And before I get into some of the key takeaways and our own ways of working, I just want to make a shout out here, make it really clear that you need to fight the urge to centralize and streamline everything across the company. You should think about your minimal viable process. What do you absolutely need to get everyone dancing together and working together in unison towards the product strategy? Don't forget, when you're in hypergrowth, you're bringing in hopefully a lot of very smart people that are bringing in a lot of experience. And if you force them to dance your dance, they're gonna not look very good, as everyone who's learned a new dance can attest to. Takes some time, but if you have your own moves that get the job done, there's absolutely no harm in that. But you need that minimal part of coordination, and in our cases, it's things like quarterly planning, keeping our roadmaps in sync, and how we communicate on that weekly basis. So when I first got into product ops, I kept hearing PMing, the PM experience, or as I'm starting to use this new acronym, PDMing, so that we don't confuse product management, project management, program management. So product managing the product manager experience. What does that look like for us? We ask for a lot of feedback. For almost everything we do, we ask for feedback, and we try to get it quantitative and qualitative, and ideally in some tool. We're starting with spreadsheets. It's the best place to start to prototype the type of KPIs you want and the type of dashboards you want before taking it to something more heavy duty. And what I love is this, if you've been to an airport and you're walking through security, you walk out, you have this like, I like this, I don't like this. We love that. At the end of most of our sessions or activities, when it's quarterly planning or something like an all hands in this case, at the last 5 minutes, hey, everybody, we're done. When you're walking out, here's a simple 2-question survey, hit a button, keep going. It lets us know if the format is fulfilling the purpose, right? If you have something like an initiative review, is the format of the initiative review allowing you to decide with your stakeholders whether the upcoming roadmap initiative should be prioritized or not? Ask that question at the end of the session, get the answer, iterate, take that in. And if you're a product manager, think about everybody you're working with, as a customer, and segment your customers. It helps to think about a squad as a small customer with a buyer persona and a user persona. So maybe your buyer is the product manager, and the engineers who are going to be using your roadmap are the users. And then you can build your own strategy on top of that. What also helps when you're doing that is to have a model that articulates your strategy. Be outcome driven, right? That's the that's what that's the drum everybody's beating in product management right now. Do it as well in product ops. Be data driven. Have a North Star KPI tree. This is ours a couple of months ago. We're still refining it. It's not scientific. We don't know that these things will produce the outcomes that we want, but it gets us talking about it with our stakeholders, and it keeps us honest with ourselves. There are scientific models out there that there's a lot of research that has been done. My favorite is this is literally what it's called. It's called the Big Friendly Diagram from the DevOps Research Assessment, DORA. They did DevOps research from about 2014 and still going on with a report every year, and they developed behaviors that predict other behaviors. And at the end of that KPI tree is a high-performing organization in terms of market share and revenue and achieving goals and so on. There's a lot of good stuff in there that can get you started. And last but not least, when thinking about product ops through the lens of PMing the PM experience, what we're doing is a lot of change management. We're asking people to use what we build and deliver in terms of processes or actual tools. So find product market fit. Start off by doing an opportunity assessment. Use an opportunity solution tree if you want. Come up with an idea, bounce it off a prototype with some stakeholders, those customers of yours, and then design the solution. You're the expert. Don't ask them what they want and just give them what they want. Think as well and bake in your own worldview into the design of how you want to do road mapping, how you want to do quarterly planning. And then have a pilot. Run a pilot with your alpha customers and figure out if the new process, the new tooling actually fits. I love the definition of I love the simple experiment of product market fit, where you basically just ask your initial cohort if they'd be disappointed if the solution was deprecated or removed from their lives. And if you get about 40%, then that's a good indication that you might have some type of product market fit. And that's what we did with road mapping to choose our road mapping tool. And then you need to launch it and grow. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's funny because about our beautiful slide decks, but this was definitely something. I would ask you if you would allow me to share my screen, and then we can proceed with presentation. Thank you so much. That was super insightful. All right, let's just jump into our Q&A. So we're entering our Q&A section. This space will be dedicated to questions and answers from Amer in this case. But before we get into that, we're going to give you some time to think about those as I am going to talk a little bit more about product people and give you then the time to think about your questions. So here are some use cases when it makes sense to engage with product people. So we work as interim product managers, as you already know, at least now. So if you have a product manager going on a parental leave or someone leaving your company, we'll definitely be able to cover you on that. We also work on, as product coaches or consultants. So if you want us to coach your product management team on the craft, we're also able to do that. And we also love to work on discovery initiatives. So discovering the new impactful initiatives on the product for your company is something that we could do, and is something that we've managed to work quite successfully at multiple clients on the B2C and B2B front. Either we're talking about Zalando, Tier, or on the B2B, Utopia for that case, WHO, Sastrify, etc. This is some of the testimonials that we've got recently as well, and it's always good to see that we're able to deliver some value in the outcomes that come out of our work, and it's something that really drives our passion for product, and it's something we're really proud of every day as we go to work. Speaking for myself and hopefully for my colleagues as well. Here are some statistics that we have added recently as well. So in terms of client retention, we have something like 71%. So this is clients who renew their initial engagement. Inside our team, we have more or less 40 people, of which 56% are women, and of which 2/3 are actually women in leadership. So props for that. Here you can find an amazing set of pictures of our beautiful team. So we're very diverse, spread all across 3 continents, Europe mainly, also in Africa and Asia, but we're mainly registered in Berlin. And if you ever consider becoming a product manager along with us, feel free to apply in the appropriate links that we're going to share as well. It would be great to receive your application, and we would look forward to that. All right, so I guess we can jump into our questions and answers. So if you're on Zoom and you'd like to ask a question to Amer directly, feel free to raise your hand. We will definitely prioritize those. And if not, I'll just look in through our other channels and see what questions pop up for us to answer. All right, let's see. All right, we have a question here. So how can product ops help product designers to work better with product manager?
So if we put on the PM experience hat, you need to go ask them, and you need to observe them work and identify where the bottlenecks are. And you will find out at the end of the day. You could do, for example, a process map or is a user journey map if that's something you're more comfortable with. That being said, some simple ways in which we are approaching this at Utopia is, again, speaking the same language. So we're documenting and evangelizing ways of working. So what is your responsibility as a product manager? What is your responsibility as a product designer in a team, and raising awareness about that? I don't know if this is an actual quote, but you can quote me. Poor communication is the root of all evil, and the root of most conflicts. So if you can get that out of the way, that's already, you're very far down the path there. You also, a lot of what helps the collaboration between a product designer and a product manager actually sits in that area of understanding the customer, and how can you get more access to customers into the squad where both of them are in, and even just insights. So in our case, we're trying to improve collaboration between the squad representing the product manager and the designer, and then the go-to-market side of the business, where, for example, we have salespeople capturing insights and takeaways from engagements with customers, for example. So how do we integrate the sales CRM with the road mapping tool so that the insights just flow in? What rituals and cadences and ceremonies we can have so that the squad is dancing and coordinating well with the go-to-market side of the business, and they're passing insights back and forth. Those insights are super, super relevant for product managers and product designers. That's just one of the ways.
Thank you. Okay, I see a very interesting question here, because it's something around communication. So how do you communicate and execute change across the organization, especially thinking on such a wide scale, right?
You communicate. So you communicate that you're going to communicate something, and then you communicate it, and then you communicate that you communicated it, right? And then you communicate like the thing that you want to communicate again. And I'm not making this up. You really need to do this. Luckily, we use a tool that I've learned to love, which is Workplaces by Meta. So it's Facebook, but for work. And it replaces email, and it's kind of like an off-the-shelf intranet. And so we have these groups that are automatically generated, and all the product managers are in there, or all squads are in there, etc. And we can communicate to them what's happening. And then another thing, if we go back to the part of my presentation about PMing, the PM experience, it's about going from a concept, from an opportunity to a concept to a POC to a pilot to a rollout. One of the most important things, especially if you look at the organization today, we have like roughly half of those 660 are in product creation, or what some other companies might call research and development. And that's mostly where we're doing a lot of the change management. So what we want to do there is we want to collaborate with them to change. But the product ops team, how many are we? We're about 12 people in total. So there's, what is that ratio? 1 to, what's the math here as well?
What's the total?
Yeah, what's the ratio that we have in terms of people? We have at least like roughly one product operations manager for every 3 squads. And that is a very deliberate ratio
Right.
that we staffed up to. But still, you cannot do everything, right? And so one of the core concepts you need when doing change is you need to find those champions. And you want to create those champions inside of your pilot. So when you're looking for change, opportunities that you want to solve for, and the change that comes out of that opportunity, you want to find those key stakeholders, of course, that are going to be impacted by the change, can block it, unblock it. But you also want to look for the champions, those that are very driven, opinionated, and knowledgeable, and respected by their peers, that can join your initiative, your project, your change management program, whatever the word is, and help you supercharge it through the entire journey, making sure that initial pilot is the best that it can be and actually produces the result that you want. So in our case, for example, we had some very senior people in our initial pilot for selecting the road mapping tool. And we had 3, God, I don't remember, it was either 3 or 6 squads in that initial pilot. We definitely had about 6 product managers and their leaders in that initial pilot for evaluating whether the tool will work for us or not. But you want to make sure that those people are like, once that pilot is over, they're ready to go out and evangelize it with you. So you have that one product operations manager with 6 product managers that are all excited now about this change, this impact that this road mapping tool is going to have. And the work doesn't end there. Like, we're talking about a transformation to get it adopted and integrated into all our processes. That will take time. It'll take 3-ish months to set it up properly and roll it out and integrate it, and then beyond and iterate on that. So you want to have those champions with you for the entire ride, and you want to make sure they're sitting next to you in a driver's seat as well.
Thank you. Love the answer. All right. We seem to have more questions here on the other channel. So how does Utopia ensure inclusivity and diversity in product design / product ops?
Great question. It's definitely a question that's better answered by the actual talent acquisition team. We look at a lot of statistics throughout the process when we're actually hiring, and we work with external partners also to headhunt and make sure that our initial talent pool is diverse, and also audit our internal processes to make sure it is as well.
Super. Thank you. I hope that answered the question. Another one. So how do your teams track their progress in KPIs / OKRs during the quarter?
Yeah, we, interestingly enough, on purpose, don't have OKRs for the product ops team. And the reason for that is very simple, or I don't know if it is, but I'm going to try and explain it. It's very intuitive for us, actually, is what I want to say. So most of the product operations managers at Utopia are embedded within the business unit that they're supporting. And they support the business unit leadership team and all the squads in that business unit. The business unit itself has some customer-centric, some customer-focused or business-focused objectives and specific KPIs for them. So the product operations manager in that business unit is just as responsible and focused on those objectives as the rest of the product managers and the leadership team, and has to figure out throughout the quarter, what is it that's getting in the way of us achieving these outcomes that we want. That's why the product ops team themselves don't have OKRs in the classical sense, but we do run programs. We run initiatives that span a number of quarters where we're trying to create that change. In the case of, for example, introducing a road mapping tool that's trying to solve for the problem of, product marketing managers not knowing what the release roadmap is, or similarly, salespeople not knowing what the next release is, or trying to increase the number of outcome-based initiative versus output-based ones, where we want to tie a specific product KPI to an initiative. Those are the type of quantitative measures we attach to a program, and then we track it throughout the entire life cycle of that program. Check in, of course, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and on a quarterly basis to see if the program still makes sense in that sense. I shared a overarching screenshot of what our product operations KPI tree looked like. We're iterating on that really on a monthly, quarterly basis. So we're trying to figure out what the right measures are. But at the end of the day, what's important is that it articulates a little bit your culture, a little bit your strategy of how you want to transform the ways of working, and you can communicate that. So for example, one of the things we looked at for a while was we don't really care about number of deployments to production. We care about OKR success rates. What's the number of squads that are achieving their OKRs in a given quarter? What can we do to impact that? And then we come up with some initiatives, and we try and follow that metric over a year.
Thank you. So a question that I have is about what's the importance of building or bridging between the product creation and the outer stakeholders, and what's the role in product operations in that, and how do you perceive it?
Is that the question? You're reading it?
Yes. No, that's
Okay.
my question.
Oh, that's your question. No, great, because I want to ask you, what do you mean when you say outer stakeholders?
I assume everything outside product creation. I assume when you talk about sales, commercial,
Customer
marketing,
support, legal.
right?
And well, I think without the go-to-market engine, which is sales, marketing, and customer success, or whatever the words are you use in your company, your product is not really gonna reach your customers at the rate that you want. And ideally you can, and they have a wealth of experience for markets for products that are already in market. So there's a wealth of information and insight that can be brought in early from the go-to-market machine into your product development process. So that's an untapped gold mine, if you want, that can supercharge your at least your discovery in the beginning, and then your performance of your in-market product. But then also the initial success. I mean, there's, depending on the size of your company, maybe you're a startup and you're one or two product managers and just a couple of salespeople. Maybe you're a really cross-functional squad and your outside stakeholders are inside your team. That's possible. But in a larger company, you need that collaboration to actually have the impact that you want to have. And one important thing here is to say that from our perspective at Utopia, product ops isn't trying to be that in-between part between a squad and, let's say, a sales team. We're actually trying to take that DevOps mentality and say, well, why are the developers and the operations team, why are they not collaborating? Let's not add a third team in the middle. Let's figure out why that's not working. And from a product ops perspective, we're looking at why is the squad and their respective sales team not communicating well as they report to us. And then we're trying to figure out how to help there. And then we get out of the way. We hand that process back to them and we develop it with them. Otherwise, we're just going to introduce more complexity to the ways of working. And that's not what we want to do.
Sounds a good approach. Thank you. Okay, so we have more questions coming in. So what are the qualities of a great product operations manager?
Oh, I love this. We had an offsite in Berlin a couple of months ago, really last month actually at this point. Yeah, and we looked at the room that we had, and we had realized we have a lot of awesome people in the room, but we could have used more diversity in the skill set that we had. So we had a lot of product managers acting as product operations managers. And this was very useful for us, where we're building and doing a lot of coaching at Utopia to articulate those core processes and ways of working, right? Creating that shared language of all the companies that we're acquiring and integrating and all the people we're hiring. That shared language is super, super important, which is also, shout out to product people here, the reason why so many of my team are product people. Why we're so happy to work with the company as well, because it's a lot of experienced product people that believe in the craft as well, and can also inject and accelerate our path to defining these processes. But that's not all you need in the long term, right? You need people that are strong coaches, strong product managers. You need people that understand the go-to-market part very well. If you have previous product marketing managers, that's great. A lot of what you do as a product ops manager is classical project management. You're given a certain target. You want to create this change in the organization. You have a specific budget to roll out a new tool, and you're doing that. And there's no shame in project management. It's super, people like to bash it in the product world, but most of what a product manager does is also project management with their delivery team in an agile way, right? And that's similar to what we're doing in products ops as well. We're bringing in new tools and rolling them out in an agile way. And so product operations manager needs to have that skill set as well of good project management, making the progress transparent to stakeholders and actually executing that project to completion. Another thing that's super important is actually data analytics. So we want to measure our own impact, but we also want to make reporting easier so that product managers and product leaders aren't bogged down with that overhead. And if we have product operations managers that are experts in data analysis, that actually adds to that diversity to the product operations team themselves and allows us to bring that to the table as a thought leader or as an actual executor or an operator in generating these reports on a short notice.
Thank you. All right, we still have 10 minutes. I think we can ask another couple of questions. So here's another one. For companies that don't have product ops yet, but could probably benefit from it, do you have any advice on how to pitch the idea to C-level?
This one is it's super easy. Just ask the CPO how stressed they are, if they have time to actually do their job, if they know what's going on in the individual initiatives and OKRs across their suite of products. And if the answer is they're super relaxed and everything's going great and all the product managers are communicating transparently and they can, with a click of a button on a regular cadence, know what is the state of all their OKRs, all their in-market products, and what's coming next, then you don't need product ops. But if the answer is, oh my God, my schedule is exploding, I'm in a lot of one-on-ones, everybody's shipping me different versions of their roadmap, I don't know what my teams are doing, I have no idea why this product manager is prioritizing this feature, and I don't know where I can go to talk to them about it beyond pinging them in Slack and asking for a one-on-one. Maybe you need some very experienced product people to come in and spin up a product ops team.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
And this is, it's the pitch from Melissa Perry's book. So if you're a CPO and you have 5 product managers at that point, it's good to have somebody doing that work and supporting you. Most time in my career, it hasn't been product ops people per se, but it has been agile coaches filling in that role to some degree. So you might have these problems already solved in your company in one way or another. It's just not called product ops.
Right. Absolutely.
But ultimately, what executives want more than anything is to deliver the impact of their company strategy. And if you can explain how product ops contributes to that through alignment and increasing accountability and helping product leaders and product managers focus on growing the product, growing the business, not being bogged down in operational work, I think most C-level people will understand that in case they are bogged down with operational work.
Thank you. All right. I think we have one more question. So what legal hurdles exist for product ops and product managers at Utopia?
It's a very broad question, and I can answer it in a million ways. But I think the most important one is that in a similar way to building a product, you need to make sure that your product is compliant. You need to make sure that at a minimum, the way that you're handling data is compliant with regulations. And so there's a lot of compliance in that sense. And your partner for that is your legal department at the end of the day. I'm not qualified to really answer the question in more detail than that, but most of the things we do, if we, with a measure of common sense, realize that there might be an issue there, the easiest one is any type of personal information, then consult your closest legal person.
Sounds like very good advice indeed. All right, I think we have just time for one last question. I'm going to pick one of my questions so I would like to ask,
because you can.
Because I can, exactly. And also because we're running out of questions, obviously. So since at Utopia we emphasize a lot the usage of data, I would love to know some practical applications of that in your day-to-day life at work, right? So how do you use data and how do you see it as important to drive the product ops department forward?
Yeah, so we really believe that our people are the most important differentiator or enabler for us to achieve anything that we do. We're a software company. We collaborate to build services and ship them to customers. So at a minimum, my favorite data piece that I go to is our employee engagement survey. A part of that is the NPS, of course, and I'm very happy with the NPS score that we have, which is in the high 60s. But there's also a lot of qualitative data in there about what we can do as a leadership team for the company, but also a lot of that translates in the product creation world directly to programs run by product operations. I'll give you an example. One of the things that we kept talking about was creating outcome-based roadmaps. And that's something that has a real meaning for some people, but for other people, it's just words and they don't know exactly what they're supposed to create. And finding that out through surveys and feedback in a systematic way allows us to prioritize initiatives in that area.
Makes total sense. Thank you so much for answering. Well, I guess we're done with the questions. Amer, thank you so much for joining us once again, and thank you for all of those who joined us as well. So if you'd like to follow us on Meetup or on Telegram, feel free to do so, as well as supporting us on our Patreon. It was a pleasure to host this meeting, and thank you. And until next time, thank you so much for joining.
Shameless plug, we're hiring a shit ton of people, so check out our careers page as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Until next time.